It's my birthday tomorrow, but as you know, as Muslims, we don't celebrate birthdays. But anyway, it was nice to get a present, and the present I got yesterday when I saw a video of Alex O'Connor challenging Christopher Hitchens on his sophistry. Now, this, I was happy for a few reasons. The first reason I was happy is because when I spoke to Alex before the debate, and I spoke to him that, look, you need to separate yourself from new atheists, and you need to be different, and, I do find you to be different, and I did say this in the debate that his arguments are not as superfluous and not as thin as some of the arguments of the likes of Harris and others. Anyway, after the debate, a few weeks went past. I made some responses, and then Cosmic did this live stream, and he was speaking about some parts of the debate, and someone put this on Twitter. Anyway, I replied back to the tweet, and this is the 2nd of April, in which I said, basically paraphrasing what I remember, I was saying that, he is better, right? Alex is better than the likes of Harris and Aaron Ra and Dilhunty and these guys, and he is too honest and intellectual for the cause of atheism. Now, it seems like a bit of a strange thing to say, that he is too honest and too intellectual for the cause of atheism. However, if you watch this video, and I'm going to put the link in the description so you can see the whole thing, you'll see that that is what I meant. That if somebody is going to be really honest and someone's going to be really intellectual, they will be able to advance the atheist cause to a certain limit, but they won't be able to do it if they were to use arguments which are weaker and more popular and more emotive. Right, so I'm just going to play a clip and then give a few of my thoughts about this.
I've taken it upon myself to identify what I believe to be some of Hitchens' weakest arguments in his religious debates. So weak, in fact, that I really think they should be considered discrediting and serve as a reminder that, fierce and brilliant as Hitchens was as a journalist, he was in no way a serious philosopher. Undoubtedly, I am supremely influenced by Hitchens in both my thoughts and the way that I express them. I might well have watched every single video clip of him that exists on the internet, and I can quote him from memory. His influence, in other words, has undeniably made me what I am today. But if Christopher Hitchens can turn on his maker, and so can I, and that's exactly what I'm intending to do in today's video. In Letters to a Young Contrarian, Hitchens writes, "I attack and criticize people myself. I have no right to expect lenience in return. And so lenience there shall not be." I want to expose some of Hitchens' worst argumentative characteristics and show how he employs them to make you think that he has the upper hand in a debate, even when he definitely doesn't. The biggest problem with Hitchens' bad arguments was that he presented them so charmingly and convincingly that it's easy to be won over by them. Unfortunately, presenting bad arguments cleverly is the definition of sophistry, and so definitely worth calling out and breaking down. In fact, I think the only way to trust a person's admiration for someone is in the knowledge that they recognize their faults, if and where they exist. I'm not claiming that Hitchens was always sophistic, of course, and neither am I claiming that when he was so intentionally. But I fear the prospect of idolization and also of getting into the habit of only criticizing my opponents. So this should be a good exercise in humility and self-reflection. The main thing to notice is that Hitchens continually manages to weasel his way out of actually answering serious questions by relying on quips, jokes, or other kinds of distractions. So we'll take these 3 points in turn and demonstrate why Hitchens just utterly failed when addressing them.
I don't believe in the rest of it, don't believe in the prophets, don't believe in the mountaintop, don't believe in the revelation. Well, nor should you. But how dare you suggest to us that we couldn't teach our children self-restraint and respect for others and the golden rule? How dare you?
But when the religious say that there cannot be such thing as morality without God, they're not saying that there cannot be such thing as morality without belief in God. They say that you can be an atheist and be moral, you just can't objectively ground your morality. So when Hitchens asks, "How dare you say that I can't be moral without believing in God?" he's answering an objection that was never put to him. He's answering a different question, one that the religious rarely, if ever, actually ask. But when the question is framed more clearly, sometimes Hitchens understands that he is in fact being asked to ground morality, not just to prove that he's a moral person. Let's have a look at what he has to say when this occurs.
At every time I'm asked this question, if you didn't believe in God, how would you know what was good and what wasn't? Every time I'm asked to speak on this, the daily news allows me to give a different answer and give a different example. Take the simplest case of what I believe is innate, our instinct for our children. You don't have to be a parent to have this. You see a child trying to rush into the traffic. If you're not a parent, something tells you what you probably ought to be doing about it. The care and love and protection of children is instinct in us, in fact in many other species too that don't claim to be divinely ordered around. It's something we all share without having to have it explained to us.
So Hitchens is answering the following question. How do we ground our sense of morality? And his answer? Well, we all have a sense of morality within us. The question is, how do you know that it's right to care about children? His answer? Well, any parent instinctively cares about children. But we're not interested in whether we have a moral instinct. Of course we do. Who doesn't know this? What we're interested in is how to justify the moral instinct, which Hitchens fails to do by simply appealing to the fact that the instinct exists. A further elaboration on this comes from Hitchens' debate with Frank Turek, in which the same question is raised.
If God does not exist, why do all people have a fixed moral obligation to love and not murder? How do molecules in motion have any authority to tell you how to behave? When you do something wrong, whose standard are you breaking? Who are you displeasing? The carbon atom, the benzene molecule, who?
This question has been asked, Socrates answered it like this, when he was on trial for his life. Accused of blasphemy, by the way. He said that he had an inner daemon, was the way he put it. Not demon, a daemon, a spirit, an inner critic, a conscience would be one way of putting it. And that he knew enough to know, even when he was making the best speech of his life, that if he was making a point that was somehow dishonest or incomplete or shady, the daemon would tell him, yeah, that was clever, but you shouldn't have tried it. He knew. Okay? Any person of average moral equipment has the same knowledge. I hope you'll. If you don't, I'm very sorry for you. Adam Smith called it the internal witness, who we all have to have a conversation with all the time. It's been C.S. Lewis decided to call it conscience and to attribute it to the divine, but he didn't improve on what Adam Smith said in Theory of Moral Sentiments or what Socrates said when standing trial for his own life.
Again, Hitchens is asked, of those moral instincts that he has, how does he know that they are objectively correct? His answer? Well, Socrates answered this well by saying that we have a moral instinct within us. That's not the question. The question is, how do we justify the instinct? Hitchens is totally avoiding the question.
That's really honest of him. And considering he likes Hitchens, and for him to criticize him, I think it's quite a difficult thing to do at the same time. It's something that a lot of people have noticed anyway, but it's good not to be, starstruck and to think to yourself, look, this is not a good argument. Anyway, I hope people see the difference between the likes of Alex O'Connor and these sort of new atheists, but also there are already some atheists who I consider them to be tough challenges. I consider them to be people that when we debate, you have to be very careful because these guys are super smart, super intelligent, but they're not as rhetorical, they're not as emotive. We can still deal with their arguments, but you will have to basically put in a lot of effort. And for me, probably the most difficult atheist in the world to deal with intellectually, I think, is Stephen Law. Now, I think I said to Alex before the debate, I consider you to be a bit like Stephen Law. Now, Stephen Law's not popular. That's the problem. That even though he is really good in terms of his arguments compared to the rest of them, he is just not popular. So maybe perhaps that since Alex is already, this popular at this age, and if he's headed towards, the sort of narrative that Stephen Law has adopted, which is more nuanced, which is more, less emotive and less full of, sophistry, then we may have at our hands in a couple of years basically a Stephen Law who's more popular than Richard Dawkins, which would actually be a good thing because the discussions with between the atheist and the theist, there will be a lot more, not only friendlier, not only more productive, but also just be more honest, because it is so easy to just make an emotive argument and say, for example, and there's many other examples that Alex pointed out in the video with where he was challenging Hitchens. It's so easy to do those things, but if we really want to get down to the deep-rooted issues, then we have to get past these sort of arguments. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoy the video, and just leave me a few thoughts below about, you know, what you thought of the video, because I think this is something that we should actually we should acknowledge, and we should appreciate, and we should actually say that, look, this is something good, and we should encourage this type of behavior.